Welcome to the latest episode of the Financial Frontier. I'm your host, Patrick Camuso. I'm very excited to introduce our guest today, Kareem, the founder of Entendre, which is one of the leading Web3 subledgers that helps companies manage all of their accounting across wallets and exchanges for their businesses. Today, we're going to be discussing our experiences in Web3 accounting, working with businesses, as well as working with tax professionals and accountants. Kareem, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, Patrick, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, to get started, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your company and how you found yourself working in Web3, specifically at working in Web3 and accounting?
Yeah. I started off as an engineer at a large ERP financial platform called Workday. I worked, they compete with Oracle SAP, and I was working on the cash management, banking, settlements, and financial reporting team.
Very nice.
I did that for several years, and that's where I got a lot of exposure to GL accounting, tax, financial reporting, bank reconciliation, other like treasury management, financial operations. And then I was a payments product manager, working with payments engineering teams at large startups that notably are very high growth, um, and focused a lot of my time on the quote to cash process, automating bank reconciliation, expanding to new markets, which was always like a huge wall that companies would hit because as they would try to establish a presence in a new market, you have to think through not just the payment providers and the acquiring banks and you have to figure out how does that integrate into your original financial stack. And in fiat, it was pretty fragmented. My most recent experience, I was a group product manager before starting on Tundra, building the financial platforms team. And one of the things we wanted to do, we worked in the restaurant business. We wanted to help um, undercut the card networks and improve restaurant margins. And one of the things that we were flirting with was the adoption of stable coins to embed it in restaurant checkouts. And so one of the biggest issues to that was our finance team at the time and our controller at the time was very uncomfortable with that. It was early 2020, and there wasn't really a good understanding of how this would all work, and how we could manage risk and account for things at month end. And That's kind of what established, I knew if high growth startups and fiat were going to have issues with accounting, then it made a lot of sense that high growth Web3 startups were going to face the same problem. And so the year that we founded Entendre was actually like a really interesting year. It was the same year of the Luna Terra crash, the Celsius Voyager bankruptcies, I believe, FTX implosion. So, I mean, our thesis was kind of right. And, we figured what we were building was very, very needed for the industry. And we took a unique approach. Obviously, we're in a pretty crowded market, but Entendre stands out for a multitude of reasons. But yeah, we launched last year in May 2023 after about a year of building in stealth. And that's a little bit of the history of the company.
Very nice. Very nice. So you're in this unique position where you have a good foundation of Web2 experience building accounting systems, and now you're translating that over into Web3. And I think you have an interesting perspective in that regard, and the fact that you're working sort of on both sides of this, right? You're working with accountants, tax professionals, CFOs, and then you're also working with Web3 CEOs and CFOs internally as well. So I'm interested to hear, like, what advice would you give traditional accounting firms that are looking to make this transition into Web3 accounting and start serving clients in this space, or maybe they're getting clients asking them questions? What would you want to tell them?
Well, I think there's been a lot of resources now. Folks like yourself are actually building the foundational like knowledge base, and I think there is a lot of very smart finance professionals now, um, that are have already made that transition over the last few years. So I think the overall legitimacy of the industry, the maturity of the industry is growing. And I think that's also in lockstep with Entendre and how far we've come. My advice to accounting firms, honestly, would be don't ignore it. I think a lot of people are just trying to ignore the elephant in the room, which is blockchain digital assets. And I think something that I think is really unique and something that should be heavily researched and invested in is artificial intelligence. I think with the blockchain being digital in nature, everyone looking at the same infrastructure, same normalized set of transactions for a particular blockchain, um, that gives us a huge opportunity, unlike in fiat, for automation using artificial intelligence and being able to scale your back office. So I think, you know, digital assets might sound scary right now, but I think over time it will be actually the preferred solution for businesses and especially accounting and finance teams.
Absolutely. And can you expand on that more in terms of like what role do you see artificial intelligence playing into your platform on Tondre and just in integrating into Web3 accounting in general?
Yeah, there's three core, I think, use cases today. I think one, accounting subledgers are extremely sticky products, no matter how awful they are, right? People can get extremely frustrated, but the investment they've made into a subledger has a unique moat. And so, what we want to do is, I think, use artificial intelligence to one, make it easy for the change management aspect to be able to move providers that get across providers, especially to Entendre, that help your unique business needs and accounting needs. Two, the ongoing maintenance of the system. So once you're in a system, right, we've kind of eliminated the change management. Um, we now need to actually automate the ongoing recurring bookkeeping and classification or account posting processes for your team. And there's something really nice about having a accountant that never sleeps, a 24/7 available accountant, finance system analyst for you of sorts. And so, the ongoing maintenance is the second thing, is how do we just make it a lot more enjoyable. And then the third is really on the, the FP&A side. How can we then take the data that we've automated and make it really easy to analyze, not require FP&A or strategic finance's time each month to prepare the same metrics. How do we just make it easy for folks not to need to know SQL and can just speak to a agent and provide all the reporting and forecasting that you'd like. So that's really how I see like the three immediate use cases. And obviously this is just scratching the surface. I think there's probably a lot more that's going to be on a lot of people's roadmap in the next 12 to 18 months.
Absolutely. And where's that roadmap development in terms of Entendre? Do you guys have some of these implemented already, or are there plans for future implementation on that? Like, where are you at in terms of integrating AI with your platform? And are there any examples that you can give of companies leveraging those features in your platform?
Totally, yeah. So we started off with onboarding, which is the kind of like that first use case. So we've built a really sophisticated onboarding agent that will actually automate a lot of the core flows of your wallets before you even get into the product. And we're just continuously improving that, because now we want to then ask you to classify the outliers or the transactions that need more context without needing to talk to someone on our team, right? So I think that's like one we're really excited about. And then after that, we have a lot of natural language like functionality where you can use Entendre to copy and paste. Let's just say you needed to add 20 external wallet addresses, because they're vendors and staff, and you want to be able to write automation around them. You can just copy and paste your spreadsheet and then dump it into Entendre, and it will be able to know, oh, okay, these 20 wallets. I'm going to create them in your address book. Very small example, but cut your task out from maybe 20 minutes of clicking to 1 minute. And we want to do that for every part of the app. And then you can also ask Entendre questions about your balance sheet, income statement.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So it seems like you guys are very AI focused, and you have several features of this implemented already.
Yeah.
Really focused on streamlining things from that perspective.
Yeah. And the reason we have a strong foundation, a lot of people were skeptical about, the AI, but we are the system of record for your double entry accounting in crypto. So we actually do the accounting, the journal entries um, within Entendre, and then we can go and push to whatever GL system you want. Instead of being, rigid, like a rigid mapper to a fiat GL, we are actually the crypto GL, which is one like a very unique advantage that we have, and people were very skeptical, but it really is the most complete way to automate everything for a business. And then separately, when you're building on top of a strong foundation, AI just becomes more reliable. So we are a mover here in the crypto subledger market as far as how AI functionality goes, and we want to keep pushing the boundary and hopefully inspire some of the other accounting product teams, to push the limits of what's possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, they seem like great integrations and great way actual use of AI, not just in a buzzword way, but actually using it to help save time, onboard customers easier, and just make your platform better. So what's next for Entendre? Is there any exciting future developments in the pipeline regarding, new features that you're rolling out, new integrations, even potential partnerships, acquisitions, anything of that sort?
Yeah, I think definitely the doubling down of AI is going to be exciting, and we actually have been keeping it a little too close to the chest recently. So I definitely encourage everyone to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter or X, just to stay up to date with the latest. We are, yeah, we have like, the next 10, 20 mini projects in AI that we want to build.
Nice.
And then from as far as integrations go, it's always a slog, right? There's always a new exchange. There's always a new L1 or L2.
Always.
Yeah. So we're always constantly maintaining that. That to me is just part of the name of the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, we most recently integrated with Maple Finance to automate institutional borrowing and lending for companies. Some of our best partners, like Rain Cards, we automate also the fiat corporate card transactions, the also all of the on-chain collateral movements. So that's been super helpful for teams because that's kind of their gateway into fiat, and then everything else is done on chain. And so with us having their expenses, also managed, you can think of it as like a ramp to QuickBooks integration. A Rain to Entendre integration works very similarly. So very, very powerful. Yeah. So I think that's what we've been up to.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and it's because we took this kind of GL approach that we can work with different Web3 projects to hydrate their data more, our customers, mutual customers on-chain data more, to improve automation capabilities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, switching gears a little bit, do you what are you perceive as the biggest regulatory challenges or the biggest regulatory changes that are on your mind related to digital assets and crypto? Obviously, I would say over the past year or two, we've really seen this aspect accelerate, and some big developments. One that comes to mind are the proposed broker regulations. So, what sort of regulatory changes are top of mind for you, and are any of these changes factoring into how you're building Entendre and what your plans are for Entendre?
Yeah, I'm definitely following it as best I can. A lot of this stuff is like um, is something that we care about deeply, but it seems like every time something passes, it's actually to our benefit. I think the industry is doing, a lot of political activism here to vouch for digital assets, to make it to lower the barrier of entry of companies adopting digital assets. So I think, um, earlier this year was or was it last year, the FASB guidance for fair market value was a big one, and we actually had both already built, where you can mark to market your assets or reevaluate your assets at month end.
Very nice.
So it was, we kind of just took like a double-edged sword approach, and that's kind of what we've been doing, because we ultimately, it's up to the customer how they want to configure the account.
Yeah.
So we try not to be your CPA. I know a lot of folks like ask us stuff just because we're like in the tool, but so we do want to stay on top of it. Definitely interested in like the court cases as well. I know like SC versus Ripple, when that happened, it actually just, allowed people to start creating new tokens and not have to register them as securities. That was a big win, especially for meme coins. But yeah, you have Coinbase for SEC, and also I think now Uniswap got served like a notice recently as well. So just staying on top of those cases are going to be extremely important.
Absolutely. Yeah, this just seems like the pace of change and the focus of regulators on Web3 and digital assets is just starting to take center stage. So it's something I know you got to stay top of mind with when you're building an accounting solution. It's something we have to stay top of mind with as CPAs and tax professionals.
Yep.
So when you're working closely with CPAs, you're also working closely with businesses. So when onboarding new Web3 companies into Entendre, are there any sort of like common mistakes that you see them make when they're setting up and implementing their accounting systems? Anything that goes overlooked that can lead to issues that you see maybe time and time again?
Bad wallet hygiene, right? Get
Yes.
your ops founders out of the wallets, especially if they're just trying to test stuff.
Yes.
The other big one is be flexible in the way you want to see your chart of accounts, your balance sheet, your income statement. Think about it from a management perspective, how they'd want to see it. Entendre, for example, can give you all the underlying token balances, fiat balances, historical balances, if you want to dig into the numbers, but you don't have to make that reflect on the balance sheet. You don't need an asset account per token, and then you have 50 asset accounts.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think those are probably the two.
Yeah, in terms of the presentation on the balance sheet, I think there can be a benefit to a certain degree breaking things out, by connection and by asset if we're talking about major assets and major holdings. But breaking out every single altcoin in a wallet probably isn't going to be giving you a great degree of utility on your balance sheet, whether it's for you making decisions for your company or for investors looking at it. And that's really where it comes into, what are you going to just keep in your sub ledger versus, what are you going to push to your general ledger, and in what format that is, and how you initially map your chart of accounts is extremely important. Like you said, it's very sticky, just these Web3 sub ledgers in general, but also once you set up your chart of accounts, it's not something easy to unwind and redo. So you definitely want to think about that ahead of time. So I think that's a great point. Are there any like key takeaways or lessons that you've learned for Web3 companies that can help them in audit readiness and in terms of making sure that their documentation is aligned, that if they undergo an audit, it's going to be a smooth process. It's not gonna result in any negative implications?
Yeah, that's great. Great question. Well, being biased, I think they should use Entendre. We got multiple companies through multiple audits, especially even international audits, IFRS audits.
Nice.
And it really comes down to we don't miss a single transaction. We automate every single transaction. We give it a double entry journal. We have a balance that gets impacted because of that journal entry. And then you can integrate that journal into your GL in a GL level roll up or individual. And when an auditor, when you provide these statements to an auditor and they have everything that nets out and ties out, audit's kind of done.
Exactly.
So at least for the crypto side, obviously, if you got vendor invoices or you have whatever, you're going to need to, take care of that stuff on the invoicing side. But yeah, I mean, I think just making sure, kind of what we talked about in the prior questions, is like good wallet hygiene, very, have a COA that, can age well with your company. And then I would say just have a automation tool to help you take on most of the load of the work.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, obviously, this is a new space for a lot of people, and like we said, the regulatory environment is just constantly evolving. Are there any resources that you use that you would recommend to listeners that want to stay up to date on these topics on
It's
Web3,
so
taxes, accounting?
it's so funny. I think X is like the best platform.
Yeah,
Um, it's weird to say, but everyone is so active on there in the crypto community. And I would join communities as well on Telegram, which also Web3 is adopted massively.
absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
so that would be my secret sauce for folks who are like trying to break into it. Have a X account, join X Spaces, join follow the industry leaders. X accounts they live and breathe this stuff, and then join communities and feel free to ask really dumb questions. That's what needs to happen for people to get more comfortable.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. There's tons of people out there like myself and like many others that have spent years basically, learning this the hard way. So
Yeah,
I would encourage you to follow all of them, leverage them for your knowledge,
yeah,
and, make sure you're taking a systematic approach to understanding this because you need to understand the Web3 crypto digital asset side, the accounting side, and the tax side. You need to be able to combine all those skills together. So it's not going to be like one place you go to get all your information. Like you said, you're going to have to be
yeah,
hungry for knowledge and really be participating in this industry actively on Twitter, in telegrams, in different professional communities. And that's how you're going to build a really strong knowledge base. So, Kareem, I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
yeah.
How can our listeners, connect with both you and your company? What is the best place to get in contact with you individually? And then what is the best place if they want to reach out and get onboarded with Entendre?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, you can visit our website on Tundra Finance. You can book time with us through the link there. You can also email me at Kareem@entendre.finance. I read every email. And then on X and LinkedIn, Entendre Finance. And yeah, you'll see a lot of our team retweeting stuff on there and being retweeted from the company account. So if you want to follow us, our personal accounts, please do. Yeah, and that's that. Yeah, that's the best way.
Awesome. Yeah, I would encourage everyone to follow not only your company account, but your guys' personal accounts. I know you and your team put out great informative content. So I
Yeah,
encourage everybody to check that out.
yeah,
Otherwise, Kareem, I really appreciate you being a guest. Thank you again to everybody watching. I hope you took value from this episode and I appreciate you listening in.